You can open it, everybody.
How do you start? Let's get up.
Unfortunately, this isn't the greeting all soldiers get when they come home. In today's video, we're going to talk about Thank You for Your Service, a book that describes what it's actually like coming home. The story centers around a few members of the 216 Infantry Battalion and their return back to civilian life in the U.S. Adam Schumann returned back to the U.S. after having a severe mental health issue and is struggling to reintegrate back into society. Tausolo Ayeti, a Samoan soldier who throughout the story suffers with PTSD and memory loss. Throughout the story, he tries to receive help from the Warriors Transition Unit, but is found struggling to make any progress due to the lack of support. In this video, we're going to talk about diversity and the parts of the book that cover and don't cover certain areas. The first section of diversity that we're going to talk about is race. Race is one of the parts of the story that almost seems missed. The author seldom talks about race, and it's presumed that most of the characters in the story are Caucasian. This might not be on accident, though, as 69.98% of active duty men in the U.S. military are Caucasian. However, Tausolo is one of the only characters whose race is mentioned in the story. Tausolo is American Samoan and is seen as being different. An example of this is on page 42, which states, "And before Tausolo can answer, Howell knows what Tausolo should do. Hawaii, you would love life. Plus there's a lot of Samoans there." He laughs. Right now, in the U.S. military reserve, there are over 200,000 American Samoans. The next section we're going to talk about is gender. In terms of describing soldiers, all the characters who were active military members in the story were heterosexual males. A big piece that was missing from the story was the representation of female soldiers. About 18% of both Navy and Army officers currently in the U.S. are female. There also was a lack of diversity in the sexual orientation of the characters. This also probably wasn't on accident, since the law permitting homosexuals to be allowed to admit their sexual preference free from fear of discharge has only been in place since September 20th of 2011. The military wives play a huge role in the story. They are a support system for each other while their husbands are away at war. However, there are some expectations these wives have on them. The first is that they have to be undeniably supportive and patient with their husbands. The second is that they are assigned the responsibility of taking care of the husband's issues and fixing them. The third is that they are supposed to be strong and just own their issues. This comes into play with the wives in the story when Saskia, Adam's wife, is at her wit's end trying to put up with all of Adam's issue. An example is on page 15, which states, "She hates that he smokes. She hates that he wants to be alone so much now, either fishing or hunting, or out on the front porch having a cigarette in the dark. She hates that her patient didn't turn out to be bottomless after all." Next, we are going to talk about class. The story takes place in Topeka, Kansas. Topeka is a relatively rural area where a majority of the people live below their means. Many of the veterans in the story find themselves having a hard time finding a job and going through various stages of unemployment. Everyone in the story struggles with money to some degree, and they have a hard time making ends meet. One of the biggest examples of this in the story is how Adam can barely afford the mental health care he so desperately needs. An example of this is on page 101 that states, Adam mentions the PTSD program, the one that Tausolo Ayeti had gone through. Maybe it would help, he says. Maybe it would, Saskia agrees, but it would mean 7 weeks of no work and no pay. That's 2 missed house payments, car payments too, electricity, gas, phone, groceries. She reminds him that they have no savings. The next section we're going to talk about is culture, specifically military culture. Military culture is loud, intense, and full of camaraderie. I think the best way to explain it is for you to see it yourself.
Don't move, Proctor, don't move!
This is tactical quarter staff! I didn't remember the team. Hold the door open, Sergeant Parker. You know what would have been funnier if get away! Get up here, squeeze up here! Get to the front! Hold the weight so it don't step in the pisser! Go! Oh, we can get one more! Up high! Up high! Here's 11! One more! Get in there! Get up high!
As you can see from the videos, the military is full of tightly knit communities where members work in teams toward common goals. They have their own sense of humor, language, and cultural norms that keep them so close. Many members create brother or sister-like bonds that are extremely meaningful to individuals. Also, military culture celebrates both physical and emotional strength. Members are conditioned to be emotionless and show strength rather than fear. But what are the consequences of a culture like this? Well, when members return back to society, they struggle going through day-to-day life without the brotherhood or support of those tightly knit communities. They also have a difficult time dealing with their emotions due to being conditioned to mask their emotions. This brings us to where we can help and what outreach programs are available for veterans. So the question is, where do we go from here? Well, what support looks like varies. In terms of local support, MSU offers a Veterans Support Center that is available to all veterans of the U.S. military, eligible dependents, and members of the Selective Reserve. They can help certify eligible recipients for veteran education benefits, along with help select the right program for you. The Boot Campaign offers a comprehensive medical wellness program that targets the 5 invisible wounds: PTSD, traumatic brain injury, chronic pain, self-medication, and insomnia. To fund their awesome program, the Boot Campaign sells military-inspired boots to the general public, along with celebrities who endorse their cause. The Veterans Affairs is a federal cabinet-level agency that provides near-comprehensive health care services to eligible military veterans. The government spent $200 billion in 2018 on the VA, accounting for 5% of all federal spending. Most of the spending of the funds goes towards compensation and benefits and medical care. However, the other areas are severely lacking. I think it could be beneficial for the VA to spend more on education and vocational rehabilitation. Thank you for your service has shown that most veterans aren't receiving education or support when they come home to reintegrating back into society. Overall, I really enjoyed reading Thank You for Your Service and feel that it gave me a new perspective on what it is like for military veterans when they return from service. Even though this book was an emotional roller coaster, I would definitely recommend this book to a friend and would suggest they buy some tissues as well.